Fiat started when my wife and I were young, and we came to Europe. And right here in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, we bought this Fiat for $300 US. And we started traveling around. I was carrying this night, and it was fine for what it did. This was I should mention that this was a budget trip. We were young and didn't have a lot of money, so we had a cheap car, and we were staying in cheap hotels and pensions. And I often needed to make repairs, and so I wished I had a pair of pliers in my pocket. And so during the trip, the idea was to add a pair of pliers to a pocket knife. And when we got back home, and by the way, it was a long trip. We were traveling for 9 months. We started in the Netherlands and went up through Denmark and Scandinavia, came down through Eastern Europe, through Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, and finally got to Turkey, and then went across Turkey to Tehran, Iran, worked there for 3 months, came back through Europe, and when we came into Italy, we were still driving the Fiat, but we were just driving normally down the highway, and a car came from the side and crashed into us and destroyed our car. So that was the end of the Fiat. But you know, it's funny the details you remember. I paid $300 for the car, and the insurance company paid me $280 for the car after I'd driven it about 10,000 kilometers.
Nice.
Anyway, when we got home, I had this idea that I wanted to make this tool. And that's my wife back there videotaping. I asked her, could I make one just for me? And she said, how long will it take? And I said, maybe 1 month. She said, okay. So she went to work to support us. I went to the garage and started trying to build what was in my mind. And not 1 month, but 3 years later, I had a tool that I liked. But here's the evolution. You can see I started with cardboard in the hotel room in Tehran, Iran, and then moved to wood, and then wood plus metal, and then trying to make a plier more multi-purpose. I have to admit I'm not a good inventor. When I started, this was the idea that was in my mind. But when I got to this point, even I realized this was not a good tool, not even for me. The handles were too short to have good leverage for the pliers. Worst of all, if you cut a wire, the handles came together and give you a blood blister in your palm. But then somehow I came up with the idea that if I put a pin through here, I could have a longer handle. The handle could rotate around, and the tool wouldn't be any longer in my pocket, but in use, it would be a longer pair of pliers, more functional. So you can see I'm a very careful, slow, methodical person. You can see I made a jaw, a pin and a jaw and a handle, just to illustrate the concept. And then moving along, doing more work on the pliers. In this picture, you can kind of see a tool in there somewhere. And then finally, three years after we started, this is the tool I came up with. I filed for a patent. I got some publicity about the patent in the New York Times. And I thought people are going to call me and offer me $1 million for my invention, and I'll live happily ever after. Nobody called. So then I thought I had created a knife with pliers. So I thought all I have to do now is go to the knife companies, show them my prototype and my patent, and they'll pay me $1 million, and I'll be happy ever after. But the knife company said, sorry, it's not a knife, it's a tool. And then, so I went to many, many night meetings, and they said the same thing. Finally, I got the message. So I went to the tool companies, and they said, sorry, it's not a tool. No, it's a gadget. Gadgets don't sell. So by now, 7 years have gone by, and still nothing to show. But a friend of mine from university days, named Steve Berliner, had been following my, I could say progress, but I should say lack of progress for all this time. And he stepped in and said, there's still a few things you haven't tried. So we became partners, 75-25. And but we were quite sure at this point that if we were going to get the tool on the market, we would have to make it ourselves. And then, but before we wanted to commit the investment to starting a manufacturing company, we wanted to sell a customer to order a few tools. And we were very naive, and we thought if we could make and sell 4,000 tools in our first year, then we could pay back our investment, but even we realized we would pay ourselves nothing for our time. So we were looking for somebody that could order 2,000 of the 4,000. We thought, who could that be? We thought, aha, the U.S. Army. They can issue a tool to every soldier. And the Army said, no. And then some of you might remember that in the United States there was a telephone company called AT&T, and they had a monopoly on the whole telephone system. And they had tens of thousands of people repairing telephones. We thought they could order 2,000 tools and issue them. And so we approached them, and their answer was,
yes.
No. We had a 50-50 chance to be correct. So then we thought mail order catalogs. Back then there were a lot, and it was a popular kind of business. And so we approached, we created a list of 280 catalogs, and we took a picture of this tool and sent the letter and a picture to the 280 catalogs saying, if you're interested in seeing my precious handmade prototype, I'll be happy to send it to you. And the answer we got was, from 280,
Send one.
0. Except, this catalog was close enough to Portland, my hometown. They're in Seattle, only a 3.5-hour drive. So instead of writing to them, we called them and said, we have this new invention, a new kind of pocket knife. Could we come up and show it to you? They said, sure, come on up. So Steve and I drove up to Seattle. We showed them this tool. They said, interesting. How much? I have to admit, I hadn't really thought about a price yet. So I quickly thought, and I said, your price, $40. And they said, that means we have to sell it for $80. And sorry, don't think anyone would pay that much. But they did me a big, big favor. Instead of saying, go away, go quickly, don't let the door hit you, they said, sit down. Let's sit down. And they said, how could you make the tool not as expensive? And I said, well, this tool had a clamping feature. You could put something in the jaws and then engage the clamp, let go, and the object would stay clamped in the jaws. I said, this is, if anything were to break, this would be the first thing. They said, take it out. Okay. They said, what else? I said, the two kinds of pliers, the needle nose, independent of, but driven by the regular pliers. Very complex, very difficult, very expensive to manufacture. He said, take it out. Just have one jaw, have your needle at the end, your regular plier in the middle, and your wire cutter at the bottom. I said, okay. They said, what else? I said, I really admire the Swiss. I had no idea how difficult it was to make a small scissor and put it in a tool or a knife until I tried to do it myself. They said, take it out. Substitute a screwdriver or something. I said, okay. So Steve and I got back in the car, drove back to Portland, went back to the garage. About 6 months later, I came out of the garage with this tool. Now, some of you probably recognize this tool because I saw a couple of them today. And we called Early Winters again, said we have a new prototype to show you. They said, come on up. We drove up, we showed them this tool. They said, how much? Your price, $24. We said, okay. My hopes are rising. They said, so I said, so you're ready to order 2,000? And they said,
yes.
They said,
10,000. 100.
they said, yes or no?
Oh.
Yes. They said, no. You're wrong again. They said no. Sorry, we don't think we can order 2,000. So we took a picture of this tool and wrote a letter again and sent it to the 280 catalogs. And one day, I got at my business address, which was actually my home address, I received a letter, and it said Cabela's on the return address. And I opened it up, and inside was a purchase order for 500 tools for $12,000. And you cannot believe how happy I was. Finally, this was on late May of 1983. The trip to Europe started in 1975. So this was 8 years later. We finally got a sale. I was so happy. I was climbing the walls and going across the ceiling. Finally, I settled back down and called Steve, and Steve was so happy. But then we thought, wait a minute, that's only 500 tools. We needed 2,000. But we talked it over, and we decided to go ahead and accept the order and start production and see what would happen. We got very lucky because Steve's father had a metalworking business, and Steve's father let us move the equipment I had accumulated in my garage into his business, and he also let us use his machines and his employees on a subcontract basis. So this order from Cabela's came in May, but they wanted delivery in late December. So the 7 months we thought was plenty of time to get production going. And during that 7 months, we got a call from the catalog in Seattle, from Early Winters, asking, is anything happening? We said, yes, we're in production. They said, okay, put us down for 250 tools, also for late December. A couple of days after Christmas, we got a call from Early Winters saying, our 250 tools, where are they? I said, we're a little bit late. Sorry, we'll have them for you any day now. They said, we need them really badly because they've all been sold. And here's an order for 500 more. A week later, they called and said the 500 are gone. Here's an order for 750. 2 weeks after that, the 750 have been ordered and sold. Here's an order for 1,000. So we were asked, what's going on? And it turned out that Early Winters thought that this strange-looking object was the most interesting thing they could offer their readers on this particular catalog. They gave it 2/3 of the back cover, and people saw this, and they had some nice print here, and they started ordering. And the people that ordered it, once they had it in their hand, they started wearing it and using it every single day. And their friends saw them using it and said, what's that strange thing? And the person that bought it said, I don't know how I ever got along without this. I use this every day. And their friends started buying them. And so in that, and Cabela's ordered 500. They sold their 500 just fine and started reordering. And then many other catalogs got a sense this was a hot product. So they called and asked if they could order. And what happened was, in that in the last few days of 1983, we managed to ship about 200 tools. In the first full year, when we were hoping to make and sell 4,000 tools, we were actually able to make and sell 30,000. The following year, 70,000. That led to the go-go years, where from 1993 with 200 tools to, from 1983 with 200 tools to 1993, we sold more than 1 million of the original pocket survival tool.
Impressive.
That's my story. I think we make a pretty good tool, and I have my famous nail breaking demonstration to show you that I think we make a pretty good tool. And the demonstration is to show that a Leatherman tool is precise and strong. The tool is precise enough that the wire cutters even work as scissors and cut paper. But the same tool is strong enough to cut this nail. Now the gentleman here, Ed, the guy that has the knife show, the biggest wrist I've ever seen, he could probably do this with his bare hand, but I cannot. So I put the nail in the tool in the fixture. I put the fixture on the floor. I stand on the handle, say a little prayer, and then jump. And
The head is over there.
someplace there's the nail is part of the nail is here, another part is over there. Thank you. Luckily, the nail is in two pieces, and the tool is still in one piece. And afterwards, the wire cutters still cut paper. We guarantee the tool for 25 years.